What's up, everyone? It's GC Kinsey, here to talk about one of the biggest challenges I see around asexual representation in the media. The concept of show don't tell in writing versus the idea of action is not attraction in the asexual community. If you're asexual and you consume a lot of fictional media, one thing you might have experienced is feeling starved for representation. And I don't mean hints, I don't mean subtext, I don't mean fan theories and headcanons, I mean actual solid evidence that a character is ace. We're only just now reaching a point where we're seeing more ace representation, and not all of it is accurate or affirming or reflective of the lived experiences of our community. And I think one reason why it can be so hard to do ace representation justice is an inherent conflict between what's considered good storytelling and the way ace spectrum orientations work. To explain what I mean by that, if you've ever taken a creative writing class, one of the first things you might have been taught was show, don't tell. Meaning that your prose, your script, whatever you're writing, will come out stilted and flat and boring if you just tell your audience everything. What's much more interesting is to show them what the characters are feeling. For example, which sentence is more interesting? Thor was angry, or Thor clenched his teeth, fingers tightening around Mjolnir's handle as he fought to calm the storm of rage churning inside his chest. Or if this is a visual medium, maybe you would show a shot of Thor standing there with quivering muscles while lightning flashes in his eyes and crackles across his skin. You get the idea. You don't want to just tell the audience Thor is angry, you want to show them. But how do you show that a character is asexual? Well, that gets a lot more complicated, because in the ace community we have a very important concept called action is not attraction. Basically, this just means that the way you experience sexual attraction isn't necessarily the same as the sexual behavior you engage in. And this is something you can't ignore because, guess what? Aces can still have sex. Believe it or not, it is possible to have sex with someone you're not sexually attracted to. And aces might do this for a variety of reasons, like making a beloved partner happy, or because it physically feels good, or for science. Asexual doesn't mean celibate, but a lot of people think it does, and therefore a lot of aces who do engage in sexual behavior are invalidated or told they can't really be ace because of it. So that is why we say action is not attraction. And by the way, this doesn't just apply to aces, it works for any orientation. That's how you can have straight actors making gay porn, for example. But this idea of action is not attraction is unfortunately in conflict with show don't tell, because when you're trying to portray sexual attraction on the page or stage or screen, the go-to way to do that is to show the characters engaging in sexual behavior. You might show two men having sex to tell the audience that they're gay. You're showing the action to represent the attraction. So when you show a character not engaging in sexual behavior, especially to the extent that other characters notice and comment on it, that can lead the audience to believe that character is ace. Some examples of characters who are considered to be ace by their audiences include Spock and Data from Star Trek, Sherlock Holmes from Sherlock, Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory, especially in the seasons before he was shown getting together with Amy Farrah Fowler, and a surprising number of characters from the Star Wars universe if you're just going by the movies. But the thing is, that's not actual asexual representation, because when you show a character not having sex, that doesn't necessarily mean they're ace, it just means they're not having sex. Now, I do like to take an ace until proven otherwise approach with every character who's shown not having sex because, hey, why not? I can, and it's fun. But what I truly want at the end of the day is real ace representation, not just my personal headcanons. So how do you prove otherwise when action is not attraction? And how do you make that work with show don't tell? It may not be easy, but it's not impossible either. Here are 3 tips for making these conflicting concepts work together in your storytelling. Number 1. Show a character telling someone they're ace. This is a sneaky little way to get around the show don't tell problem, but it totally works. The important thing is to make sure that the character explicitly communicates that they are asexual and not just that they could be. And I promise this doesn't have to feel like a boring lecture where you're educating your audience about what asexuality is. There are a lot of ways you can do this that feel completely natural, especially if you look at the way this happens in actual queer communities and mimic that in your work. Maybe you portray a conversation where one character is coming out as ace to another character. Or maybe your character's already out and they're making ace-related jokes or puns or sharing memes or something. Maybe they go to a pride event wearing ace colors or carrying the flag. Maybe you show them questioning and looking things up about asexuality online. This was done brilliantly in Heartstopper with a character questioning his bisexuality, and it could totally work for asexuality as well. Also keep in mind that it's extremely common for aces to not know the word ace until someone else says it to them, so maybe that's how it happens for your character. Number 2. Avoid conflating sexual attraction with sex itself, or with romance. This is getting into another issue besides just action is not attraction, which is the split attraction model. In a lot of fictional media, especially if it's trying to be friendly to younger audiences, romantic attraction is used as a stand-in for sexual attraction, but those two types of attraction aren't the same. If you try to portray a character as asexual by showing them never having romantic relationships, that doesn't really work because asexual isn't the same thing as aromantic. Also, action is not attraction applies to aromantics as well. They can still engage in romantic behavior like dating and relationships. Plus, arospec characters deserve their own representation separate from asexuality. By all means, you can and should have aro-ace characters, but for it to be true representation, it needs to be intentional. And the way to do that is to make it clear how the characters feel when they're engaged in a romantic or sexual situation. That way you're portraying that situation through an asexual and or aromantic lens. For example, maybe you have your ace character talk to their partner about what's going through their mind while they're having sex, or maybe you show the audience a glimpse of that character's internal monologue. Number 3. Don't rely on word of God for asexual representation. In case you're unfamiliar, word of God is a term for when the creator of a fictional work makes something canon by talking about it in an interview or in a tweet or on their website outside of the work itself. But if you want something to be real representation, you need to put it in the story. Not everyone in the audience reads author interviews. Really, only the bigger fans tend to do that. Casual readers are only going to know what's in the work. And therefore, anything the author says outside of that work can't possibly count as canon, no matter how much of the fan base collectively accepts it as such. Also, can you think of anything that violates the principle of show don't tell more than taking a word of God approach to representation? Come on. I'm looking at J.K. Rowling as a classic example of this when, after the Harry Potter series was fully published, she then decided to state that Albus Dumbledore was gay and thought that counted as making it canon. But, considering how transphobic she later turned out to be, is it really that surprising that she took the laziest possible approach to representation through word of God? Please, y'all, don't be like J.K. Aside from that advice for getting around the show don't tell versus action is not attraction problem, I have 3 more pieces of advice that can help you make your ace representation better overall. Number 1, we need more variety. The ace community is full of a multitude of experiences, and the more ace characters we have, the better the representation will reflect our reality. This means we need to see more aces of all ages, not just teens and young adults. Aces of color, disabled aces, neurodivergent aces, trans and non-binary aces, aces who are parents, aces who are sex workers, aces who are superheroes. The list goes on. Number 2, we need multiple ace characters interacting. When you have more than one ace in a scene together, that means you don't have to worry about putting all of your representation eggs into one basket. And that's great because that means that an ace character isn't as likely to become a walking stereotype or a token. It also helps with that first point I made about more variety. The more ace characters you have in your story, the more ace characters you're adding to the overall pool of representation in media. By the way, if you're worried that it might seem unrealistic to have more than one ace character in the same work, just remember that in real life, queer people tend to find each other and form packs. So it's actually a lot more unrealistic to have only one ace character in a big group of allo friends. What I would love to see is the asexual version of something like Queer as Folk or the L Word, a big cluster of asexual friends hanging out and living their lives. Number 3. We need to see more of asexuality as an orientation, not a personality trait. A character's asexuality isn't the only thing about them. It can be a big thing about them. I mean, maybe your character is like me and does activism and education and vlogging and dresses in ace colors all the time. But it's also important to keep in mind that our asexuality doesn't define us, and it doesn't say anything else about our personalities. A lack of sexual attraction doesn't make all of us a bunch of shy, awkward, nerdy introverts. So what are some examples of fictional stories that represent aces well? Here are a few of my favorites. Number 1, BoJack Horseman. Not only do we get to see Todd figuring out his asexuality,
I'm not gay. I mean, I don't think I am, but I don't think I'm straight either. I don't know what I am. I think I might be nothing.
but we also get to see him coming out.
I think I'm asexual.
Asexual what? Dynamo? Deviant? Harassment lawsuit waiting to happen?
No, asexual, not sexual.
Oh.
And going to an asexual meetup group.
I know it's pretty wild for an asexual to get married, but...
Not really. John and I are aces and we're married.
Really?
Yeah.
And having a relationship with another ace character.
Unless you don't enjoy sex. No, of course we'll spend the night and fornicate.
His asexuality is well developed, realistic, and very clearly canon. Number 2, Jughead. This is a case where we have a long-running character who probably wasn't originally intended to be asexual, but whose feelings and behaviors certainly indicated that he could be. And in 2015, Chip Zdarsky made it canon. It gets revealed during a casual and realistic conversation between friends, implying that Jughead is comfortably out as ace among his peers. Number 3, Shadowhunters. Raphael explains how he feels about sex during a romantic moment.
I haven't felt this way about anyone in a long, long time.
Kiss me.
It's not like that. I'm not like that. I'm just not interested in sex.
This scene does a particularly effective job in illustrating the difference between sexual attraction and romantic attraction, and making it clear that ace isn't the same thing as arrow. Number 4, everything's gonna be okay. Drea explains that she doesn't experience sexual attraction, making her asexuality undeniably canon.
I actually don't think I'm sexually attracted to anyone.
What do you mean?
During that same scene, she negotiates a romantic relationship with sexual non-monogamy for her allo partner in a way that works for both of them.
Would you want to be my girlfriend if you could have sex with people who weren't me?
You mean be with you romantically, but I have casual, safe sex with a variety of men. Yes? I can't think of anything better than that.
Showing the audience an example of an ace-allo relationship. Number 5, sex education. We see Florence wonder what's up with her sexual orientation and even worry that she might be broken.
I don't want to have sex at all. Ever with anyone. I think I might be broken.
Until her sex therapist gives her the language to understand herself by explaining what asexuality is.
Do you know what asexuality is? It's when someone has no sexual attraction to any sex or gender. Sex just doesn't do it for some people.
Oh, but I still want to fall in love.
Well, some asexual people still want romantic relationships, but they don't want the sex bit. and others don't want either.
This explanation is both accurate and affirming. And here is where I want to turn the conversation over to you. What are your favorite examples of asexual representation in fiction? What do you think is missing from asexual representation right now, and what do you want to see more of? Do you feel like media portrayals of asexuality accurately represent you? Drop a comment below and let's get a discussion going. You can also reach out to me on other social media. I am GC Kinsey across all platforms. And while you're here, feel free to check out some of my other videos. I've got more vlogs like this one about my experiences as a queer person. I have cosplay music videos, makeup tutorials, pre-testosterone voice recordings, and more right here on this channel. So make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything new. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of your support. I hope you learned something new, and I will see you on the next one.